Good afternoon, everybody. At this time, we're still waiting for two members. So what we're going to do is call to order and then immediately go into recess while we wait for Representative Richard Lizama and Representative Vicente Camacho, who are still in the building. And then what? I hereby call this JGO committee meeting to order. This June 23rd at 2:14 p.m. If there are no objections, we will go immediately into recess while we wait for the other members. I've sent the Sergeant at Arms to bring them here. Thank you. We are now in recess. Good afternoon. We are back from recess. At this time, we will go through the second part of the agenda. Or can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda, please? A motion has been made and has been seconded. Are there any discussions on the motion? All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The agenda for today's committee meeting is hereby adopted. Next up on the agenda, we have administrative matters. Are there any from the members? There's none from the members. At this time, I would like to open up the floor to the people in the chamber and those in the lobby for public comments. When you do come up to the podium, I'd like to ask you guys to please state your name for the record, and each commenter will have about 5 minutes allotted time for their public comments. Is there anybody willing to come in? I don't see anyone here to make public comments, so we will move along. Number 3 on the agenda, we will skip items 3A, B, C, and D. We will move straight into item 3E, which are 1309 letters and subpoenas. And before I go into there, I would like to make an opening statement for this committee meeting, if there are no objections from the members. My dear people of the CNMI and colleagues of the People's House Standing Committee on JGO, I wish to talk to you about the rule of law. The rule of law is what stands between us and the arbitrary exercise of power by the administration. The rule of law is the safeguard of our liberties. The rule of law is what allows us to live our freedom in ways that we may honor the sacrifices of our service members while strengthening the common good. After opening the investigation into Governor Torres, the question before this committee is simple. It is not a question of political tactics, as some in the administration of Governor Torres and Lieutenant Governor Palacios would like you to believe. The matter before this committee is a matter of the governor's expenditure of public funds. This is a public matter, not a private act. The bedrock of our democracy is being mortally threatened as the rule of law stands in the line of fire today. We can either strengthen our Constitution and laws by giving it content and meaning, or we can weaken it by tolerating and encouraging evasions and breaches of trust on the part of the Torres Palacios administration. Neither the governor nor his defenders have not denied the facts. They have not challenged, nor have they attempted to discredit the facts before the committee. They have admitted, in effect, that the governor did, in fact, knowingly committed these acts. I also want to add a new development that just came in over the lunch hour while we were in our Saipan and Northern Islands delegation session this morning. Today, we have received a copy of a non-disclosure agreement being forced upon police officers and other law enforcement officials who were at one point personal security details of Governor Torres, Lieutenant Governor Palacios, and First Lady Diane Torres. I would like to put up that non-disclosure agreement on the screen, and we will read what it says. Short recess while we set up the screens here. Says this non-disclosure agreement was given to me over the recess of our SNAL delegation session this morning, and I will read parts of it. And by the way, this is what law enforcement officials are being forced to sign. This non-disclosure agreement, hereinafter known as the agreement, created by date blank, and is by and between the Office of the Governor of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and the Department of Public Safety, jointly herein known as first party and herein known as second party. What strikes me about this agreement is item number 4, definitions of confidential information. For the purposes of this agreement, the term confidential information shall include, but not be limited to, documents, records information, and data, whether verbal, electronic, or written, security procedures and protocols, and other information related to my assignment as personal security detail, as well as information obtained or that shall be obtained while employed as a personal security detail to and detailed to the Office of the Governor of the Northern Mariana Islands. Further confidential information shall include anything I observed, have done, or become aware in the course of my employment. This includes information regarding my own activities, activities of the members of the Office of the Governor, and those of any other person if gained in the course of my employment. Confidential information is considered confidential regardless of whether confidential information has been expressly designated as confidential or security related. That is all that I will read from this non-disclosure agreement, but I wanted to let the public know that this is now being forced on law enforcement officials who were formerly assigned as security detail to anybody really in the office of the governor. I will continue with my statement. This is the so what defense whereby the governor, the administration, and his defenders have cheapened the oath of office attendant to the office of the governor. Last night, after 6 p.m., I received email notifications from the 3 witnesses who were asked to come here and provide testimony that they will not be attending today's hearing. And I apologize to the people and those in the gallery and members of this committee. The actions by the 3 witnesses to submit their letters at the very last minute is a complete betrayal and total lack of seriousness about our Constitution, laws, and the separation of powers, and the carefully balanced relationship of checks and balances between the legislature and the executive branch of our government. But it really doesn't matter. Tibay huosun, tibay huzadas, zan tibay hupara, prumotehi zan dumifendi, interes itoto marionas. Sin Moss, I would like to open the floor to other members if they would like to make their statements at this time. I recognize Representative Ed Probst.
Uh, Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that this non-disclosure agreement is shocking, and I cannot. First of all, I cannot believe that it would be even sent. That that police officers, not just security detail, by the way, other police officers are being asked to sign this with no information about it. Just sign this. That's how they're basically being told. Madam Chair, what I'd like uh, this committee to find out is who drafted this and for what purpose. I'd also like to know if the Attorney General himself is aware of this document, because one of the officers who will remain anonymous was told that it was coming from the Attorney General. So if it is, then we need to find out and verify that. But I would be shocked to think that the Attorney General would send this type of document, because this this document is obstructing any investigation that this committee hopes to carry out. They're essentially saying that they can't speak freely. And if you read further in the non-disclosure agreement, that they could be liable for damages. How scary is that for a police officer who does not have any legal representation, is being told by a superior or somebody that you must sign this or go ahead and sign this? And how is this going to even help in any investigation whatsoever? They're being told they cannot say anything. They're going to be called in and they're not allowed to say anything. So where does this investigation lead to? I thought that the governor had said that he has nothing to hide. If he has nothing to hide, then why are they so afraid for any security detail to speak out? And this is unilateral. It's not just it's not for them to interpret. It's 100%. Whatever the governor decides is confidential, with no regard to the security detail. No freedom to speak out. They're oppressing their rights to speak out. This is the kind of stuff that we've been talking about. And of course, what we will hear is this is petty politics, that this is nothing, a big nothing burger, that we should be doing other things, focusing on fixing our Commonwealth and everything else. Yet, if they have nothing, and they say there's nothing to see, nothing to hear, nothing, then you have this non-disclosure agreement that is disgusting, deplorable. How can anyone in this legislature, either the House or Senate, agree that this is acceptable? Why are we even here today if this is what we're up against or what we're going to accept? Madam Chair, I ask that you, as the chairwoman, communicate with the Attorney General and ask him if this did come from the Office of the Attorney General. And if not, then we need to find out where this came from, and if these security detail and police officers were instructed or coerced to sign off on this document that prevents them from speaking freely to this august body. Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues.
Thank you, Representative Probst. So noted on your recommendations to uh, open up dialogue with the Attorney General's office. Is there any other member of the committee who would like to make opening statements? I recognize Representative Tina Sablon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. I am troubled, to say the least, about this information we have received today on this first day during which we were supposed to hear testimonies from the witnesses that this committee called. Today, to get information that certain employees of the government, the Department of Public Safety in particular, and perhaps other agencies, who knows? This is a developing story. Officers who may be subpoenaed to appear before this committee as part of a lawful investigation are now being pressured to sign non-disclosure agreements with the Office of the Governor. As you have noted, Madam Chair, as Representative Probst has already noted as well, this agreement is described as unilateral, where it's really up to the governor to have sole ownership of the confidential information. And confidential information is so broadly defined in this non-disclosure agreement. Any information, any observations, any documents, any activities of the officer or the governor. And according to this non-disclosure agreement, any breach would cause irreparable harm and they could be sued. I'd like to call your attention, colleagues, to one part of the law that establishes our authority to conduct this investigation, and that is Title I, Section 1308, the cooperation of government officers and employees. The officers and employees of the Commonwealth shall cooperate with any investigating committee and with its representatives, and furnish to it or to its representatives such information as may be called for in connection with the research activities of the committee. Forcing law enforcement officers to sign a non-disclosure agreement, pressuring them not to cooperate with a lawful investigation of this committee, that, to me, colleagues, at a minimum is contempt. But I think we should also consider this obstruction of justice, and we should demand further clarification from the Department of Public Safety, from the Office of the Governor, and from the Office of the Attorney General. What also is troubling to me today, and I think is further evidence of the kinds of pressure that our witnesses are being subjected to by this administration, is that our first three witnesses have been advised that the Office of the Attorney General may not provide them with legal counsel. All of our witnesses, at least these first three, are current government employees, and the line of questioning that we would have directed to them, had they appeared today, have entirely to do with their roles, their official capacities, in connection with the public expenditures of the governor that are the subject of this committee's investigation. What I find interesting is that the Office of the Attorney General is providing legal representation to the governor in another committee investigation, that of the Gaming Committee. Why not these government employees in this JGO investigation? And so, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask that we request an audience with the Attorney General to clarify this. And I also further suggest that we move forward today with issuing subpoenas to all of our witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablon. I'd like to recognize Representative Vicente Camacho at this time.
Good afternoon, colleagues and the viewing public. It's a shame that there is disregard of authority towards leadership. To disregard the order of a standing committee chair within the legislature is a show of a runaway government. The undisciplined behavior is unacceptable and should not be tolerated. The lack of leadership, the lack of training on the job, the lack of purpose, and the toxic environment that is rampant within government offices, in turn, public service suffers. Public service is every government employee's business. Department heads have a fiduciary duty to the public, to their employees, and the interactions with the public and towards authority. Intimidation imposed on job security needs to stop. Toxic environment that's rampant within the government agencies need to stop. Hiring unqualified persons in a leadership position needs to stop. The culture of fear within government agencies need to stop. Government employees need to be allowed to perform their work without the fear of authority. The toxic environment of do as I say, not as I do, is the damaging ingredient of a runaway government. The no-show of this government employees seems evident that there may be criminal activities involved. To the government employees that work with purpose, learn your constitutional rights. Learn the regulations, policies, and procedures that guide you in your workplace, and ensure that there is no discrimination against race, religion, color, gender, and allow for equal and fair employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Vicente Camacho. I now recognize Representative Richard Lazama.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and members of this committee. As I stated on our last JGO meeting, what our late governor said, there's no one above the law. My dear friends in this committee, as we began last week to move forward in conducting the governor's his investigation of all his travel and personal expenses. There's one thing that I would like to ask the public. Please be patient as you to allow us to do our job. I know that the CNMI people have been waiting for this, and we will come with a conclusion. Por favor, no him sumami. For all those witnesses, I ask you for your cooperation diligently and do give us the most utmost honest testimony. Thank you, and let's move on. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Richard Lazama. Is there any other member who would like to make comments? I recognize Representative Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to point out something that the chair had said during her opening remarks, and that's, this is not a political tactic, and this is merely our efforts to look into the expenditure of public funds. And being part of the minority in the last legislature and coming up with the minority report and looking at all these expenditures, it brings a lot of questions to mind in terms of how are we safeguarding monies coming into the CNMI and how it's being spent. And that's one of the main reasons why I introduced House Bill 2233, and that is to ensure that we, the legislature, is a part of the process in ensuring that these funds coming in is spent for its rightful purpose, and to ensure that it's meant for the public and it's spent for the public. And I, now more than ever, and what we're seeing now today with all these delay tactics, is that they are hiding something. And if it's, if we uncover this truth, it might be too late. And so I urge the Senate to look into House Bill 2233 and if there's something in there that they want to amend to show that, or in order for them to support it, then, we'd like to hear from them and see how we can move and pass this bill so that any future expenditure of these ARPA funds are safeguarded for or in the next 2 years. Um, Receiving these letters just yesterday and with the NDA today, you know, we tried to play nice. I mean, the 1309 letters that went out was a courtesy from the chair and the committee to try to get these individuals to come in and answer some of the questions that we may have, just to provide clarity to the committee so that we can further investigate on these actions that have taken place in the past. But with this letter seeking that they need counsel, this is again another delay tactic that I think the chair and the committee can support Rep. Sablan's request to issue out these subpoena letters so that we can bring them in. If that's a subpoena, if it's a subpoena they want, then I think it's something that we should issue. It clearly states on the letter that although your letter is on a official letterhead, it is not a subpoena, and so therefore, chair and members, I think we should move forward, and I support Rep. Sablan's earlier request to issue out these subpoenas. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. One thing I'd like to add is I will take all your requests under advisement until we get into that in the agenda. But I wanted to add for the public to know, zangin todza ne pomanot na hafa na munga siya man mottu gwini legislature. Mismo i gobyerno ilengya, my door is open. We have opened up the doors of the legislature. This was a simple, nice 1309 letter before we proceeded to issuing subpoenas. And they really give us no other choice than to force these subpoenas. And mark my words, I will be willing to take it further than that. This committee is serious about its obligation to get to the truth of these documents. The fact that the witnesses and now the non-disclosure agreements are being pressured onto government employees paints a picture of a guilty conscience on this administration. Thank you. Can we take a short recess at this time? Now back from recess, and we are still on item 3E on the agenda. I'd now like to recognize Representative Tina Sablon for the proper motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And at this time, I'd like to move to issue subpoenas to the following witnesses to appear before this committee within 5 days as provided by law. And that would be Jomelyn Galacio, Bernadita Palacios, and Matilda Rosario. And pursuant to Title I, Section 1302, these subpoenas shall be require the attendance of any person at a hearing of an investigative committee shall be made at least 5 days. And any person who is served with a subpoena must be given notice that they may be accompanied at the hearing by counsel of his or her own choosing. And between now and 5 days from now, Madam Chair, I would like to request that we get that audience with the Attorney General and the Department of Public Safety. But for now, this motion is to issue subpoenas to these 3 individuals. Thank you.
A motion has been made and has been seconded. Are there any discussions on the motion?
Ready?
I'd like to recognize Legislative Assistant Cameron Nicholas to call the vote, please.
Representative Vicente C. Camacho.
Yes.
Representative Richard T. Lazama.
Yes.
Representative Donald M. Manglonia.
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan.
Yes.
Representative Edwin K. Probst.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Blas Jonathan BJT Atal.
Yes.
Madam Chair Selena R. Babalta.
Yes.
Madam Chair, all 7 members present voted yes.
Thank you. With the affirmation of 7 votes for yes to issue subpoenas, the motion is hereby carried. Next up on our agenda was supposed to be,
We have another motion.
I'm sorry, I'll recognize Representative Tina Saban for another motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to offer another motion to forego the courtesy letters that you have had previously issued, Madam Chair, for our initial witnesses, for our remaining witnesses to go ahead and issue subpoenas for them as well. I so move.
Second.
Small recess, short recess, please. Thank you. A motion has been made by Representative Tina Sablon. It has been seconded. Are there any discussions on the motion? At this time, I will recognize Cameron Nicholas to call the vote, please.
Representative Vicente C. Camacho.
Yes.
Representative Richard T. Lazama.
Yes.
Representative Donald M. Manglonia.
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan.
Yes.
Representative Edwin K. Probst.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Blas Jonathan BJT Atal.
Yes.
Madam Chair Selena R. Babalta.
Yes.
Madam Chair, all 7 members present voted yes.
Thank you. With all 7 members voting yes to issue, to forego the 1309 letter and move on to subpoenas from this day forward for all the potential witnesses that will be called before this committee. The motion is carried. We now move to the next item on the agenda, which was supposed to be the witness testimonies, but as we have come to know recently that they will not be appearing today, we will issue subpoenas for them to appear before this committee on the 5th day after they have received the subpoena. We now move along to the next item on the agenda, which is miscellaneous or announcements. I would like to ask the members if they have any. None. At this time also, the people in the public are free to make comments. If you guys are here to make public comments and you didn't catch the initial appropriate time to do so.
Chair, before we recognize that, and if there's any member in public, member of the public in the gallery that would like to make public comments, if there's no objection from the members, we can move back up to item 2B with no objection, so that we can accept those comments from the general public. If no objection, so move.
Okay, since there are no further public comments, we will move along to the next item on the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Motion has been made and has been seconded. Are there any discussions on the motion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. This meeting is hereby adjourned.